Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another PlayStation 4 review. Today's review is for Mafia, the definitive edition. The brand new remake from the ground up of the classic Mafia game that was released in the early 2000s. And it is a game that I did play when it was first released. I won't say I was a huge fan of it or anything. I actually personally found it a little bit too punishing and hard. And there's a few missions in that original game that really scarred me personally. It was really difficult to play. However, at the time it was a real breakthrough, I think, in regards to storytelling in games and things like that. And obviously it's gone on when we've had Mafia 2 and Mafia 3. I'm trying to think really what's the best way of describing Mafia 2 and 3. I personally like both them games. However, they've both got their critics at the same time. So most of the Mafia fans kind of laud this game as the standout game. So for it to get a complete remake from the ground up, I think is something that fans have been really looking forward to. So what do you get with this game? Well, like I've said, it's completely remade. It's a complete overhaul. Fans of the original will immediately recognise the game. It follows the same stories and the missions. It's got a brand new voice cast and everything. It feels really top notch in that sense. I think Hangar 13 have done a brilliant job in that sense. It looks fantastic, the game. It really does stand out. I mean, it really looks very, very beautiful. The voice acting's very good. The cutscenes are expertly done. And it's a great story, there's no getting away from it. But I like the story in all the Mafia games. And if I had to pick one, I'm not sure I could, which is my favourite game stroke favourite story. But I can understand why people think this one is the best. Now, what you get here with this game is quite a linear experience. It's a story. It's a heavy story-based game, and you will get a cutscene. Then you'll get a mission to do, which will involve things like driving to this location, sneak around this other place, collect this thing, shoot these people, beat these other people up, etc., etc., blow this place up, and then drive back to this other location, or escape the cops, escape these gangsters, etc. So it's quite a similar pattern really what you get with this game, but it's quite linear. It's set in an open world, but you don't really get to explore this open world like modern day open world games, and there's no other activities to do in this open world other than drive to your mission, do this thing, finish the mission, drive back to this other place. Or that's essentially the structure of this game. However, the game does give you a free ride mode if you want to. Once you've completed the first chapter in the game, if you go back into the main menu, there is a free ride option for you to explore the open world. However, all you'll really be doing is driving around and looking at how gorgeous the game is, really, because there's not much else to do in the free ride mode either. It gives you some options here as well. If you remember in the original, if you played it, that game, like as I mentioned, was quite punishing. It had where the police would chase you down if you were speeding. If you did any traffic violations, you would be chased by the police. The driving was really, really hard. But what they've done this time round is they've changed it. You can change it if you want. You can turn that off so the police are a little bit more lenient, if you like, and you can speed and break traffic laws, and you can change the driving from simulation to something that's a little bit easier, which to me, I have done that, because if you don't, you're just going to be crashing into the side of buildings constantly, because it's very, very hard other than that. Now, we do get a good story here, and what else we get in regards to this is the gameplay. Right, okay, so like I've said, you get three aspects of the gameplay. You've got driving. The driving's quite responsive. For me, if you have it out of simulation mode anyway, it drives okay. In simulation mode, like I say, you're going to be crashing into things constantly. The shooting, I've seen some reviews of this, and they've kind of had a little complaints about the shooting, and once you play it you could completely understand that. Really, the shooting feels dated but functional. It does its job, but it's nothing exciting and overly special, and not particularly responsive, if I'm perfectly honest. And there's not a huge array of weapons. You get your usual, your pistols and your Tommy guns and shotguns and things like that, but other than that there's not an awful lot of variety in regards to the weapons. They handle okay. It's like a cover based system where you will hide behind an object, pop your head up, shoot the bad guys, and there's an aim assist if you want to use that in the game as well to make the aiming a little bit better. There's shooting in the vehicles as well, but it's basically just a case of press the L1 button on the PlayStation 4 and it will shoot at the bad guys. You don't even have to aim, really. So yeah, the shooting's okay, but it ain't going to win any awards. There's like stealth based missions where you're basically just creeping around, and again they feel a little bit dated. And there is like hand-to-hand combat, melee combat in the game, and that's just a case of counter and then punch, and again it doesn't feel particularly responsive, and it feels like there's no impact in the punches and things like that. And at times there's no sound effects either, and that's the biggest bug that I've found in this game, is the sound effects. Sometimes if you die and you load back in a shooting mission, you'll load back in without the sound, and you'll be shooting people and there'll be no gunshot sounds, or there's just the sound problems now and again. Same with the fighting. Sometimes you'll be fighting and there's just no sound. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's any impact anyway, but when there's no sound it's a bit ridiculous. But that's the biggest bugs that I've had so far in this game. I know people have reported other bugs, but I've been playing this on a PlayStation 4 Pro. Maybe that's got something to do with it, but I haven't experienced many other bugs, and I haven't had any crashes as yet. I haven't completed the game yet, but I'm a good chunk into the game, shall we say. This game is available in the trilogy, so if you've never played the other Mafia games, you can buy the Mafia trilogy, so you'll get Mafia 1, 2 and 3 in that pack at a reduced price. There's the gameplay is at odds as well with the story sometimes, and what I mean by that is you play a guy called Tommy Angelo in this game, who starts off as a lowly cab driver, and he's essentially gets recruited in to be the local Mafia enforcer. And early on in the game he's at odds with the killing of it, and it takes him a while to get used to it. However, the gameplay is at odds with that, because immediately before he kind of questions what he's doing, and he kind of freezes when he has to kill someone. He's just murdered about a dozen people in the mission before, quite indiscriminately, by shooting them with shotguns and in the head and things like that. So the gameplay sometimes is at odds with the story and the cutscenes, and it just feels a little bit jarring. But as a game here, I think you can see that Hangar 13 have gone into this with a lot of care and affection, obviously, of this classic game that many do regard as a complete classic. And you can see they've taken the time here to develop a really nice I keep wanting to say remaster, but it's not a remaster, it's a rebuild, and they've done a good job here. I think it looks tremendous. There are some great story beats and great set pieces, and you feel like you're in this huge, expansive, sweeping Mafia story, and I think that's what it gets right here. And the story continues to escalate and escalate, and you start off doing little missions, and then as it goes on, you find yourself blowing up brothels and beyond. I mean, it goes bonkers, and you get involved in all sorts, really, and you do get involved in this story, and it's told in kind of like flashbacks, because at the beginning of the game Tommy is sat with a police detective kind of recounting his story to this detective. And that's why it comes in like chapters, and it's set in the 30s. You've got all the period cars in here. You've got a garage in there as well that you can choose what car you're going to travel around in. And there's a couple of cars that I'm sure are from some of the other Mafia games I've played. I might be wrong, but they seemed a little bit too modern for this game. But if you're a fan of the Mafia series and you've never played the original Mafia, it's an essential purchase. It's not a full price game if you don't want to get the trilogy pack, or if you've already got the other two. I think I paid $34.99 for it in the UK. I think it was 34. It might even be $24.99. I forget. I think it's $34.99, which I think for basically a rebuild of this game from the ground up, I think is a fair price, if I'm honest. But if you're a little bit unsure, if you're not a massive fan of the Mafia series but you do want to give it a go, it's a wait for a sale really. It's a nicely done one. They've certainly done a better job on this in regards to how it feels and looks than Mafia 2. But I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, which I think is the same score I gave Mafia 2. I really enjoy that game. I enjoy all the Mafia games, and from my perspective I think they all kind of sit together now as a great trilogy of games, and they all have their ups and downs, and they're all games that you should probably check out if you haven't played them before. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you found the review useful. I will be back with more content and reviews on Screen Stars very, very soon.